Okay guys, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Now, fasten your seatbelts. Here we go. Okay guys, I'm back and it's Saturday, January 11th, and it is 10:23 p.m. Eastern Time. So let's get started. There are no Q posts for today, but we are going to jump right into the news. So here we go. Now I do have people to thank, but I'm going to leave that for the end of the show. And what we're going to do is we're going to come down here to where the news actually starts. Now, I do want to let you know as well that I have been continuing to look into the subject that we covered in my last video. That would be the most important thing you've never heard. And I don't know, I'm kind of torn between doing a short video on that as well tonight. But I think what I would like to do is continue to research on this tomorrow and bring you a video tomorrow that is completely dedicated to that, as well as another video that deals with the news of the day. So we'll see how we go. If I have lots of energy when I finish, who knows? I might do another short video. I don't know. But let's get started anyway. Hope you all are doing well. You look well, and I'm glad you joined me anyway, because, you know, it gets lonely sitting here by myself talking to myself. Like, that's no fun. So anyway, let's just start anywhere. Like, here's a good place to start, right here. Now, under pressure, Iran admits it shot down jetliner by mistake. Odd. Very, very odd, if you ask me. There's a lot of things that aren't adding up with this at all. Not at all. There was a lot of nuclear scientists on board. That's one thing. The fact that there were intact bodies when it was shot down from the air and fell from a very, a great height, very quickly hitting the ground in a ball explosion. It's odd that there are bodies intact. I just think that that's a little bit strange to me. And they've also showed some belongings that, like somebody's wallet where the money was still in there, didn't even look singed at all. I find that a little odd. But anyway, let's continue on here. Tehran, Iran, in the face of mounting evidence, Iran on Saturday acknowledged that it shot down the Ukrainian jetliner by accident, killing all 176 people aboard. The admission by Iran's Revolutionary Guard undermined the credibility of information provided by senior officials who, for 3 days, have adamantly dismissed allegations of a missile strike as Western propaganda. It also raised a host of new questions, such as why Iran did not shut down its international airport or airspace on Wednesday when it was bracing for the U.S. to retaliate for a ballistic missile attack on 2 military bases housing U.S. troops in Iraq. No one was hurt in the attack carried out in retaliation for the killing of Iranian General Qasem Soleimani in an American airstrike in Baghdad. Iran's acknowledgement alters the narrative around its confrontation with the U.S. in a way that could anger the Iranian public. Iran has promised harsh revenge after Soleimani's death, but instead of killing American soldiers, it forces downed a civilian plane in which most passengers were Iranian. Lots of odd things with that plane. Lots of odd things. On Saturday night, hundreds gathered at universities in Tehran to protest the government's late acknowledgement of the plane being shot down. They demanded officials involved in the missile attack be removed from their positions and tried. Police broke up the demonstrations. President Donald Trump tweeted a message of support to Iranians who back protests of the government, saying he and his administration are behind them. In the tweets, Trump called on the Iranian government to allow human rights groups to monitor the protests and expressed support for the brave, long-suffering people of Iran. General Amir Ali Hajizadeh, the head of the Guard's aerospace division, said his unit accepts full responsibility for the shootdown. In an address broadcast by state TV, he said when he learned about the downing of the plane, "I wish I was dead." Well, to tell you the truth, if I made an error that led to the death of that many people, I probably would wish I was dead as well, because how do you live with that? Assuming it was an accident, and that is a big assumption indeed. He raised the possibility to his superiors that his forces shot down the plane as early as Wednesday morning because the simultaneous occurrence of the launch and crash was suspicious. Hajizadeh said guard forces ringing the capital had beefed up their air defenses and were in highest level of readiness, fearing that the U.S. would retaliate. He said he suggested Tehran should close its airspace, but no action was taken. Now, this is a little interesting because right before this happened, the FAA had shut down the airspace for any U.S. Commercial flights flying over that area, and so had other countries. So why was this plane allowed to take off from Tehran anyway when the missile strikes were happening? It just seems a little bit odd to me. Why would they even let it take off? Don't know. But I know that there was a lot of young people on there. I know most of the Canadians on board were, younger in age. They were university students, college students, what have you. But there were other people on board that make this a little suspicious. So he said the airline's pilot and crew had done nothing wrong, but an officer made the bad decision to open fire on the plane after mistaking it for a cruise missile. We were prepared for an all-out conflict, he said. Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, expressed his deep sympathy to the families of the victims and called on the armed forces to pursue probable shortcomings and guilt in the painful incident. And of course, yesterday we talked about the fact that they had bulldozed the area and they had at least one bomb-sniffing dog, probably trying to remove traces of the missile. Who knows? Or what else were they looking for? Was there something that they were looking for amongst the personal belongings that were scattered in the area? Since there were all of these scientists on board, were they looking for something? I don't believe personally that this was an accident. I could be wrong. I've been wrong before. But something is really not right with this whole thing. And I don't know what it is, because unfortunately, we live in such a time that we can't trust the news, and we can't trust the news coming out of Iran, certainly, but we can't even trust our own news, our own mainstream media. We can't trust them. So I don't know. Maybe some of you guys have some feelings about this. I would more than welcome you to put that in the comments below, because it helps sometimes to know what other people are thinking and feeling about this. And, right now I'm thinking, okay, maybe I'm the only one that's feeling this way, because I talk to people around here and they look at me like I have two heads. Like, what do you mean? It was an accident. Get over it. Well, maybe it was. Maybe it was. Maybe it wasn't. So anyway, I'm going to come down here. Don't want to read all of this. So actually, I think that is all I'm going to read from that. And I just thought it was interesting that they are, in fact, admitting it was an error. Because I believe they had been, up until that time, blaming it on the U.S. And many people have been blaming it on the U.S. Even members of our own government have blamed it on Donald Trump. Of course. What isn't his fault? Everything's his fault. Yeah. Unless it's something good. And then it's like, well, you can't, credit him with that because whatever. He'll never be given any commendations from the Republicans, sure, but never from the Democrats. It's amazing, really, to me. But let's look at this. Now, this from the Daily Mail. So prepare yourself for all these ads, because this is one of those sites where if you don't allow ads, you can't see it. This is, sorry about that. Protesters in Tehran clash with riot police as they demand the Ayatollah resigns and call for regime change after Iran finally admits to shooting down jet and killing 176 people. Protests broke out at 4 universities in Tehran on Saturday after military admitted fatal blunder. Angry crowds demanded the Ayatollah's resignation and full investigation into the disaster. Regime forces cracked down hard on the demonstrators, firing tear gas into the crowds. Iranian air defenses shot down civilian passenger plane carrying 176 people, most of them Iranian citizens. The country was on high alert after targeting U.S. forces with ballistic missiles in a bloodless strike. And it was indeed bloodless, no matter what comes out of the propaganda machine in Iran. It was definitely, those missiles did not hit anything of importance, like people. Iranians have gathered in the streets of Tehran to demand the resignation of Ayatollah Sayyid al-Khamenei after the regime admitted it had mistakenly shot down a civilian passenger plane. Angry crowds gathered on Saturday night in at least 4 locations in Tehran, chanting "Death to liars" and calling for the country's supreme leader to step down over the tragic military blunder. Video from the scene shows what began as mournful vigils for Iranian lives lost on the flight soon turned to outrage and protest against the regime, and riot police quickly cracked down, firing tear gas into the crowd. "Death to the Islamic Republic," protesters chanted as the regime's security forces allegedly used ambulance to sneak heavily armed paramilitary police into the middle of crowds to disperse the demonstration. Ukrainian Airlines Flight 752 was carrying 176 people, at least 130 of them Iranian citizens, when it was shot down by hapless Iranian Revolutionary Guard air defense forces shortly after takeoff from Tehran on January 8th. Now, remember how this took us back to a Q post, and Q had said something about freedom is coming, like that this means something good for Iran, freedom's coming to the people. Now, I didn't think I'd ever see the day when they were rioting against their leader, but that's exactly what they're doing. And who knows what's going to come from this? I don't know, but it is a horrific tragedy. 176 people, that's a lot of people that lost their lives for no reason, for absolutely no reason. Oh, I'm sure there was a reason, but there's never a good enough reason to take innocent lives. So let's go back and see what else we have to get into tonight. And I like this from Charlie Kirk. He says, when Osama bin Laden was killed, the Senate unanimously passed a resolution 100-0 praising our troops for taking out a terrorist. Today, 0 Senate Democrats have supported an identical resolution to praise our troops for the killing of Soleimani. What changed? Well, there's only one thing that changed, and that is the head. Was Obama when bin Laden was killed. Personally, I think he was dead long before. I don't know what to think about that. But anyway, and today it's Donald Trump. And it doesn't matter what Donald Trump does. He could bring world peace and they would still find a reason to hate him. Now, I don't believe he will bring world peace. I don't believe there will be peace until Christ physically returns to rule and reign. I don't think that is possible. But that is just my opinion, and we can agree to disagree on that if you are not of likewise persuasion. Okay, let's look at this. This is more about, it never gets old, it seems. Federal prosecutor working on the case of billionaire sex offender Jeffrey Epstein is the daughter of former FBI Director James Comey, who was fired by Donald Trump. So the federal prosecutor working on the case for Jeffrey Epstein is the daughter of James Comey. How do you like that? Do you think this is getting looked into thoroughly? I doubt it. I sincerely doubt it. Maureen Comey is assistant U.S. attorney in the Southern District of New York. She is part of the team prosecuting billionaire sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. Epstein was arrested on Saturday after landing in New York from France. Now, this is old. This is an old article. So I'm just wanting you to know, because I think we may have covered this back then, but I'm not sure. And I want us to be aware of this. So, yeah, so she is the one that was in charge, and Epstein was arrested on Saturday, and okay, this is back in the summer. He faces sex trafficking charges. Okay, well, he's dead now. He's not facing anything except the Lord in judgment, if he is truly dead, which I have my doubts. I really do. So, in 2017, her father, James, was fired as FBI director by President Trump. James Comey has blasted Trump as unethical and untethered to the truth. Yeah, well, he should know. If anyone is untethered to the truth, it's him. But I just wanted to touch on that for you guys. So I don't know. I don't know if we're ever going to see any justice with that at all. Because it's kind of like, well, he's gone, so out of sight, out of mind. I don't think that they're really doing much about this. I could be wrong. I hope I'm wrong. I really sincerely hope I'm wrong, but I don't know. Okay, now let's get out of there and let's see what else we can scare up for tonight. And scare up is a good term to use, because I know that the last video I did was pretty, I'm not even sure of the word to use, but it was not palatable. It was people enjoyed it from what I can ascertain, but I think it was a little bit much for some people, and I completely get that. All right, so this is, it says, real Donald Trump, Trey Gowdy, Demo rats aren't trying to remove Trump with impeachment, but instead are focused on kneecapping his second term by flipping the Senate so he can't get anything done. Not get judicial appointments, SCOTUS replacement, foreign policy, and the cabinet he wants. So let's take a listen to Trey Gowdy.
He gave a lot of great statements. I know this is your wheelhouse. Tell us why this is so corrupt.
Well, I mean, let's skip over the process. The process, the 3-month-long inquiry investigation was laughable, but they voted. That's the House's prerogative. They voted. Not a single Republican went along with them. In fact, they didn't even keep all the Democrats. But the House exercised its prerogative, and they impeached the president. There is no mathematical way he's ever going to be convicted. And they know that. So their goal cannot be to remove Donald Trump from office. It is to neuter his second term. I think he's going to win in November. It's to neuter that second term by targeting the Cory Gardners and the Martha McSallies and the Tom Tillises and the Susan Collins and Joni Ernst. Because if Trump wins and he doesn't have the Senate, then he's not going to get any judicial vacancies filled. He's not going to replace a Supreme Court justice if he or she retires. He's not going to get the foreign policy he wants. He's not going to get the cabinet he wants. So I never thought this was about removing Donald Trump, because they're not going to do it. It's about putting Cory Gardner in a really tough series of votes, so he has to defend them in November this fall.
I think you're right. Everything is through the prism of...
Yeah, that makes complete and utter sense to me. And I think that that is a very good soundbite, because it encapsulates exactly what they're doing. Exactly what they're doing. Yeah, that makes more sense, because, it doesn't make sense that they're actually trying to remove Trump, because they can't. It isn't possible. It is not possible. There is no way the Senate is going to go along with that, based on those flimsy 2 articles of impeachment, which have they are as flimsy as it comes. It's like, it's like looking at onion paper. Have you ever looked at that tracing paper that artists use? And yeah, that's what it's like. There's just no substance there at all. So there's no way he's going to be taken out, but he can be crippled, kneecapped, as they're saying here, and I like that term, or the term that Trey Gowdy used was neutered. That's what they're trying to do. They've got themselves a man with a big set of kahunas, and you know what? They want to neuter him. They want him on a leash and under control. Good luck with that. All right, now let's go back and let's look at this. No, really, let's. Okay, this by Omri Sarin. Flashback 3 years ago this week, final days of Obama administration. Team Obama rushed to let Iran import 130 tons of uranium, enough to make 10 nukes. When asked what Iran was going to do with all that material, the State Department spokesman said, "I'm not going to speculate one way or another." Yeah. And this goes back to that time, January 9th, 2017, AP exclusive, diplomats, Iran to get natural uranium batch. And let's go on here, and it says, despite present restrictions on its enrichment program, however, the amount of natural uranium is significant should Iran decide to keep it in storage, considering its potential uses once some limits on Tehran's nuclear activities start to expire in less than a decade. David Albright, whose Institute of Sciences and International Security often briefs U.S. lawmakers on Iran's nuclear program, said the shipment could be enriched to enough weapons-grade uranium for more than 10 simple nuclear bombs, depending on the efficiency of the enrichment process and the design of the nuclear weapon. Now, this was all happening right before Donald Trump was inaugurated. And it says, question, look, your whole point is that don't worry, this is going to be subject to inspection and verification. Mr. Kirby, which question? Under the JCPOA, but those that expires at some point, Mr. Kirby. There are questions. So after those limitations expire, it is not correct that they could do whatever they want with it. Mr. Kirby, I'm not going to speculate one way or another here about something that question. I don't know that Mr. Kirby may or may not happen 25 years from now, Matt. There's a strong inspection regime in place. Yeah, not too strong. So yeah, isn't that interesting that that is one of the last things that Obama did? He rushed to let Iran import 130 tons of uranium because he is not for America. He is for our enemies. He was tearing down, trying to tear down this country with his bare hands and his weak intellect. And he just about succeeded. Had we not had Hillary followed him into, as the president that succeeded him, if she had won the 2016 election, I don't know. I don't know where we'd be now. Really, I don't. I don't even want to think about it because it's horrifying. All right. So let's go on now because there's more. There's always more. All right. Let's look at this. Whistleblower pulls Iran curtain on John Kerry. New evidence shows he sent letters to Soleimani. Well, that wouldn't surprise me. Would it surprise you? I doubt it. I doubt it. Did you hear what John Kerry, former SOS, did? Secretary of State is SOS. He got in front of the press and complained about Trump's dealings with Iran. He even claimed that taking out General Soleimani was a tragedy. Give me a break, Kerry. This was the same man that sent billions of dollars in cash to that evil regime. He negotiated the Iran nuclear deal that everyone in America knew was a terrible idea, but after his bogus statements, a whistleblower has come forward. He is releasing fresh evidence that Kerry was quite chummy with one general. Yeah, the surprises never stop, do they? From BizPac Review, Middle East expert Michael Doran slammed former Secretary of State John Kerry in a series of tweets exposing the Obama administration's dealings with Iran. Now, this is from Mike. Kerry would have us believe that the JCPOA contained rather than enabled Iran. In response to this ludicrous and reckless contention, I must become a whistleblower. I know for a fact that the Obama admin sent letters, plural, directly to Soleimani. How do you like that? Kerry would have us believe. Okay, that's the same thing. Michael Doran, a Middle East expert, came out and accused John Kerry and the Obama administration was in contact and accused. Okay, that's not a very well-written sentence. Basically, this person's trying to say that this whistleblower alleged that John Kerry and the Obama administration was in contact with Soleimani, the same Iranian general behind the embassy protest and other imminent attacks. Doran is calling on the media and Congress to declassify the messages Kerry sent to Soleimani. He even mentions presidential correspondence to Iran's leader, Khamenei and Rouhani. Was Obama chanting? Oh, I'm sorry. Was Obama chatting? Was Obama chatting with Iranian's top brass? That should read, was Obama chatting with Iran's top brass? I'm not sure who wrote this, but they didn't edit it. Was he chummy with an oppressive regime that wiped out innocents and persecuted its own people? That's a bombshell right there. If ever I've heard one, I would explain why Obama was so. It would explain why Obama was so eager to send nearly $2 billion to Iran. That money, Trump stated, was used to acquire the missiles fired on our men and women. Kerry needs to be tried for treason, and I am hoping. I mean, really, if next year's elections come and we've not seen any justice, I don't know. I'm going to really, really lose hope that we will ever see justice. I like to remain positive and optimistic, but it is getting a bit much because we're watching these people make a mockery out of the U.S. justice system. Really, that's what's happening. And how is anybody to have any faith in the justice system while they see these people doing horrific things? Nothing happens to them. Nothing happens to them. So, all right. Now let's go on because we can. And here's a little bit of good news. And don't we all need a little bit of good news? Of course we do. This from the Western Journal. Flourishing Trump economy lifts more than 6 million off food stamps. Now, I wonder if you took that 6 million, what that would be represented money-wise, because we know that, we've got this problem with illegals flooding our border. They seem to get all sorts of things free education, free healthcare, you name it. And the American taxpayers work to support them, which is not fair and never has been. But I'm not talking about legal immigrants at all. I'm a legal immigrant. I'm not talking about them. But anyway, what was I going to say? Oh, the 6 million. Despite this huge influx of illegals, they've managed to knock 6 million off of the food stamps payroll. What? I mean, that's got to be billions. I don't know how much money that would represent. I don't know what the average family gets for food stamps or what have you. So, but that is a huge accomplishment. Even before new rules proposed by the Trump administration have taken effect, the number of people enrolled in the Supplemental Nutrition Assistant Program has been falling, according to new data. Department of Agriculture data shows that 6.4 million fewer Americans received food stamps in September at the end of the 2019 2016 fiscal year than in January 2017 when President Donald took office. Roughly 42.7 million people were enrolled in SNAP in January 2017 compared to 36.3 million last September. That 15% drop has also meant that SNAP, which is administered by states but funded by the federal government, now costs American taxpayers $13 billion less. That's what I was wanting to get to, is that number. And yes, I was correct. It translates to billions. 13 billion. That's a lot of money. I mean, gosh, that would build the wall and then some, right? So the White House noted last month that not only have Americans previously classified as unemployed found jobs, those who were not even seeking work are now working. The prime age labor force has grown by 2.1 million people since the election, reversing losses under the prior administration's expansion period, which totaled approximately 1.5 million people. This evidence suggests that the labor market's revival over the past 3 years is not a continuation of past trends, but instead a result of President Trump's pro-growth policies, the White House wrote in a December report on the labor force, which includes Americans who are working or looking for work. The report said the roaring economy means many Americans now have more money. And isn't that what it's all about? And I read also that it's actually the lower class that are doing the best under Trump because they have more money in their pockets to spend. So isn't that wonderful that, you know, people they no longer qualify for food stamps because they're making money. They're working at a job. So that's really good news, because I know when Obama was in, I was in university and also working full time, and they were actively, I just couldn't believe it. They were actively recruiting students to get on food stamps. And I was like, you know, and they were getting like some sort of a bonus for every student that they would get on food stamps. And I was like, what? I don't get this. Like, isn't it that just people, if they're in need, go and seek this out? Like, why would they have to seek out people to get on food stamps? And that's exactly what they were doing. They were going around to nursing homes and helping seniors and all that. I mean, why anybody in a nursing home would need food stamps, I don't know, because they get fed. But yeah, it was very, very odd. It's like, I don't know, it's like Obama wanted to bankrupt our country. So, I don't know why we didn't think of having a businessman run the country in the first place, because let me tell you, that's what it takes, apparently. All right, let's go back now. And let's look at this. Now, here's somebody you're sick of hearing about. I'm sure, because I am. Greta Thunberg to lecture leaders about fossil fuels at World Economic Forum. And that is in Davos. Let me see here. Teen climate change activist Greta Thunberg plans to join other youth at the World Economic Forum later this month in Davos, Switzerland, where they will admonish world leaders for providing subsidies to the oil and gas industry, which is responsible in part for advancing civilization by providing abundant and affordable energy. The World Economic Forum website posted a commentary written by Thunberg and other youth activists and published in The Guardian. Anything less than immediately ceasing these investments in the fossil fuel industry would be a betrayal of life itself, Thunberg wrote in The Guardian, including the youth's demands, including the youth's demands. We demand that at this year's forum, participants from all companies, banks, institutions, and governments immediately halt all investments in fossil fuel exploration and extraction, immediately, and end all fossil fuel subsidies and immediately and completely divest from fossil fuels. We don't want these things done by 2050, 2030, or even 2021. We want this done now, as in right now. The world of finance has a responsibility to the planet, the people, and all other species living on it. In fact, it ought to be in every company and stakeholder's interest to make sure the planet they live on will thrive. But history has now shown the corporate world's willingness to hold themselves accountable So it falls on us, the children, to do that. We call upon the world leaders to stop investing in the fossil fuel economy that is at the very heart of this planetary crisis. Instead, they should invest their money in existing sustainable technologies, research, and in restoring nature. Short-term profit should not trump long-term stability of life. I find this a little disconcerting that they're having children address the World Economic Summit. I don't know, especially Thunberg, because these are not her thoughts. I don't believe that she is just able to answer anybody that questions her. She needs to have things scripted. She's fine if it's all scripted, but have you seen her when it's off script and somebody comes up to her now? She doesn't know how to answer, because she's being told what to say, and she probably practices it, like the how dare you. You don't think she practiced that speech? Oh, I bet she practiced it over and over and over. Anyway, but despite Thunberg and others' claims, experts say that not only are fossil fuels responsible for improving human conditions around the globe, but activists call for ending subsidies to oil and gas corporations will do little to help the environment. The Library for Economics and Liberty wrote about the idea that fossil fuels harm, not help, humanity. Well, I don't know. I disagree with that. I just don't believe, yes, there to some extent there is climate change, but a lot of it is man-made climate change, as in global like weather engineering. And if you're not aware of that, please look it up. There's lots and lots of videos on YouTube that address it, but that is a real thing, and it's happening every day. All right. So let's go back now. That's enough of Thunberg. I feel sorry for her, because you know what? She should have a chance to be a kid, to do things that kids do. Not travel the world addressing adults disrespectfully, I might add. Now, yes, she has some good ideas. It's just that they're not her ideas. She's a fraud. It's her parents or someone, well, Soros. I mean, she's getting money to do this. Her family is not so rich that they can afford to just travel around the world constantly with Greta. But anyway, I digress. Let's go back. No, really. Okay, and here is what I wanted I was alluding to earlier when we were talking about the food stamps. Bottom half of households nearly 50% richer under Trump. You won't hear the mainstream media talking about that, will you? And isn't that the people that needed to be helped the most? Well, and the middle class, to tell you the truth. So the Trump economy is giving the greatest benefit to those who have been at the bottom, according to new data from the Council of Economic Advisors. Data released by the CEA shows that over 11 quarters from the end of 2016 through the first half of 2019, the net wealth of the top 1% of American households rose 13%. However, that rise is dwarfed by the 47% increase seen by the bottom 50% of America's households over that same period. That is good news. And, I'm no doubt some of you have benefited from Trump being in office financially. So, yeah, it's a good thing. It's all good. All right, let's go back. Okay. Now, I found this very interesting and disturbing. Pro-Life Org contacts every abortion facility in U.S., finds disturbing trends. A new survey of abortion facilities in the U.S. has revealed a new disturbing industry-wide trend. Well, let's take a boo at this, shall we? Now, this tells us a lot right here. Okay, now, in the purple, the states that are in the purple have equals 20 plus week clinics. Okay, so if it's in the purple, they allow abortions past 20 weeks. If it's in the white, they don't allow any There's no 20 plus. If you're 20 weeks or more pregnant, you can't get an abortion in these white states. Okay. Now, here's the interesting thing. The ones in pink, you're able to have a third trimester abortion. So you can be right up to the point of giving birth and the baby can still be aborted. New York, California, those are not a surprise at all. But it says January 10th, 2020, Operation Rescue, a new survey of abortion facilities in the U.S., has revealed a new disturbing industry-wide trend that shows that overall in 2019, surgical abortion facilities have expanded into the late-term abortion market, where lucrative multi-day procedures can reap quick profits. The survey also found the following. There are 710 abortion facilities in the U.S. comprising 464 surgical and 245 medical abortion clinics. The percentage of surgical abortion facilities that self-impose abortion limits at 13 weeks or earlier dropped from 46% in 2018 to 31% in 2019, meaning more are entering the second and even third trimester abortion markets. Gee, I wonder why. Could it be that the what they call the specimen is more developed and hence worth more money? Gee, I'm not cynical at all. The number of abortion facilities willing to do abortion after 20 weeks gestation increased in 2019. The national average cost of a first trimester abortion rose to a record high of $603 in 2019, the greatest increase in 3 years. The national average wait time for abortion appointments remains under a week at 6.8 days, which is more than 2 weeks less than it takes to arrange a first appointment with a family physician. Yeah, try to arrange a doctor's appointment within a 6.8 days. Can't do it here. I don't know about the US, but much of the data gathered during our survey this year either debunks pro-abortion rhetoric or red flags dangerous trends, said Troy Newman, president of Operation Rescue. We see women being exploited by rising prices and a rush to get abortions done. We also see abortion becoming riskier with the new push into dangerous late-term abortions. This information exposes areas where more can be done to save lives. Each year, Operation Rescue conducts a nationwide survey that involves contact with each abortion business in the U.S. The information gathered about the abortion clinics and their practices represent the most accurate data available. This most recent data was compiled by Operation Rescue, which conducted a survey of all abortion facilities in the U.S. from November 18th through December 6, 2019. So, and then it goes down here to say surgical abortion clinics. These offices conduct surgical abortions. Almost always surgical facilities also distribute abortion-inducing drugs. Medical abortion clinics. These offices supply abortions through the administration of drugs, pills, or other chemical means. They do not conduct surgical abortions. Gestational age limits. While most states set gestational limits for abortion, each abortion facility has its own self-imposed limit on how far into a pregnancy it is willing to conduct an abortion. So, look at this, 20 plus weeks. Those that are, that means you're more than 4 months. Well, you are you're 5. You're 5 months pregnant. 5 months pregnant. And 31% of these facilities will do that. 0 to 13 weeks, 31%, and 14 to 19 weeks, 38%. Because of the nature of chemical abortions, facilities that offer only that option limit abortions to 11 weeks or less. But the number of surgical abortion facilities willing to push beyond the first trimester is on the rise. So, in 0 to 13 weeks, the number fell. It was 213, now only 142 do it. And 14 to 19 weeks, there's been an increase. and the 20 plus weeks, it's been an increase as well. So, yeah, I don't think we're going to go on here, but let's go back and see what else we can get into. Yeah, let me see here. This is kind of interesting. Bangladeshi Chinese migrants and MS-13 gang member apprehended after crossing Texas border. It says Del Rio sector border patrol agents apprehended a group of migrants that included Bangladeshi, Chinese, and Haitian nationals. They also arrested a member of the MS-13 gang and a wounded Mexican cartel gunman who fled across the border. Agents assigned to the Del Rio sector apprehended multiple illegal aliens from various nations during a 24-hour period on January 9th, according to Del Rio sector border patrol officials. The foreign nationals included 5 Chinese, 3 Bangladeshi, 5 Haitians, and a cartel member who was wounded in a gun battle with Mexican state police. In total, the agent apprehended 107 illegal aliens during the period. That's a 24-hour period, 107 illegals. Wow. And what the heck is that? Hang on here. It says, last night in Del Rio sector, our agents arrested one Mexican cartel member with multiple gunshot wounds. Yeah, that must be him. So, because he looks pretty bloody to me. So, yeah. And, you know, you've probably heard the news that 100 miles of border wall has been created. Now, that's a brand new border wall. That does not include places where they've strengthened the border and whatever. That is a brand new border wall, 100 miles. Now, it's a start. It's a start. We got a long way to go because they're just going to keep finding new ways to get around. Or, I mean, so what if they have to travel, you know, perpendicular to the wall for 100 miles? They'll do it if they want in bad enough. So I don't know what's going to happen there, but I'm glad that they are finally apprehending some of these people, because could you imagine if there had been no wall or increase in border security? I mean, wouldn't be pretty. It's not pretty as it is, but it would be much worse. All right, now let's see what else. All right. Now, this is interesting, but I don't believe that one firefighter is responsible for setting all of Australia on fire. Firefighter charged with starting 17 blazes. And don't you find that interesting? Where have we heard that number before? Not 16 blazes, not 18 blazes. No, it was 17 blazes in Australia while on bail for serious sex offenses, tracked by ankle tag. So I'm not going to get into this whole story, but I just wanted you to be aware of that there has been a lot of arson here, but I think it's more than that too. I think it's a lot of that. A lot of those fires are exactly like what happened in California. And I'm not buying that it was all started by arson. I just don't believe it. And look at all these animals. That's heartbreaking. It's just heartbreaking. It's not that I feel more for the animals than I do for the people, because I know that people are suffering in Australia. They really are. They've lost everything. And it's like they're watching their country go up in smoke. Imagine how we would feel if that was America or Canada or any country. We'd all feel the same. And it must be horrifying living somewhere as this fire gets closer and closer and closer. There are less and less places to go. And, you know, the whole country is suffering from respiratory illnesses and so forth because of all that smoke. It's not good for people to be inhaling that. It isn't good for the animals to be inhaling it either. It's, I don't know. We should hear from some of our Australian people because we've got several that are listeners. So if you are in Australia and if you have information about these fires or if it has affected you personally, let us know. Really, let us know. Okay, and let's come down to here. Now, okay, this is something very interesting. And you're either going to look at this and say, well, that's ridiculous. I don't see that. Or you're going to think, holy crap, I think that's something, I think there's something to that. Now, Bill Clinton, on the 11th of January, which is today, posted the following. I remain hopeful that Brexit will respect the Good Friday Accords and the sacrifice and vision of so many people more than 2 decades ago. Now, what was sacrificed on Good Friday? Well, Christ was killed on Good Friday. And so it's interesting that he said accords and the sacrifice and vision of so many people more than 2 decades ago. Now, let's come down to the next one. He says, I care deeply about the people of Northern Ireland. Sure he does. Sure. Yeah, I believe that, don't you? Yes. Oh, we all believe you, Bill Clinton. Thousands wouldn't, but we do. I care deeply about the people of Northern Ireland, and I'm thankful their leaders are coming together in the spirit of the Good Friday Accords to stand up and see, this doesn't even make sense as a tweet because it says a Good Friday Accords to stand up the executive and restore the government functions that people of all communities require. Now, let's think about this for a minute. Good Friday, sacrifice, executive, restore the government. Good Friday, sacrifice, executive, restore the government functions. Now, this was on 8kun. I was looking through notables and saw this pair of tweets by Bill Clinton and was wondering if they are a possible code about assassinating Trump. Good Friday this year is on 4/10/20. Translated, that is D because it's the 4th letter, J because it's the 10th letter, and T because it's the 20th letter, and it's on April 10th, 2020. So Good Friday this year is on 4/10/20, which translates to Donald J. Trump. And he is talking about sacrifice, accords to stand up the executive and restore the government. I don't know, but when I saw this, knowing how these people communicate and the very cryptic way that they communicate, I think it's very possible because here is the 2020 April calendar and it falls on the 10th. Good Friday falls on the 10th, 4/10/20, Donald J. Trump. I think there's something to it. Call me crazy. Many have, but that's what I think. So, yeah. Now, it is 11:16 p.m. If you're on medication, I'm going to thank a few people. Then I don't know, I'm going to look over what I have. And if it's enough to put in a video, I may do a short video. But part of me is saying wait, because I'd rather have a good, solid video with a lot of information in it. And that will take me a little bit more time. There's a lot there, and there's a lot to look into. And there's a lot of rabbit trails. So it's not just something you can pick up and, find enough information for video after video after video. Although there is that, but I'd like to have it a little bit more cohesive before I talk about it in a second video. But I am going to do a second video. Yeah, whether it's wise or not, I don't know, but I'm going to. Now, I want to thank some people because thanking people is important. Coffee donors, Susan Sinclair, Danny, Margie, Dana Sizemore, Milan Leduc, Musy228, and Sarah. Well, thank you guys so much. It is appreciated more than you know, because as you all know, there's no advertising here, so I do depend on, Patreon supporters and coffee donors and so forth to, to be able to do what I do. And I appreciate it very, very much. But I never, ever, ever, and I've said this before, I'll say it again, don't ever feel the obligation to donate, because I know that many of you are struggling. You're on fixed income, you're on Social Security or disability, or you're just not able. You've got, obligations to your family and so forth. I totally get that. But it's nice when people do donate, because it makes up for those that just can't. So everyone's welcome here, always, and you always will be. And you'll be treated well whether you donate or not. Absolutely. I appreciate all of you. And picked up some new Patreon supporters, which that's always a good thing. Joni Betancourt, she increased her pledge. Thank you so much. And Jeff Babcock, he's a new Patreon supporter. Terry Dozier, or is it Dozier? I'm not sure. Forgive me if I butcher anybody's name. I don't do it intentionally. I've just got a talent for butchering names. But, and Jamie. So thank you guys so very, very much for supporting me via Patreon. I appreciate that. Now, this right here, I wanted to get to. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to post this in the, it'll be the first comment pinned there. Now, this is a different platform, and all of my videos have already been uploaded there. So, and every time I post a new video on YouTube, it also uploads there. So this is library.tv, and I'm going to leave the link because it's kind of a hard one to remember, but I'm going to leave the link for you. And so please jump over there and like and subscribe or whatever. It's a new platform, and I think that it's good so far. It's been very, very easy to get all my stuff uploaded and set up, and I like that. But I'm also going to be mirroring it on a couple other sites. BitChute, I cannot get them. I can't get my videos uploaded there for some reason. There's some sort of a glitch, but I am going to be choosing another couple platforms as well, just in case anything happens to this one. You will know where to find me. Of course, you can always find me on Patreon, and I am on Twitter under Mishel D Bites, MISHEL Bites, and you can always find me there. So yeah, I'm just saying this in case, because we all know what has been happening with YouTube. So I'm trying to get my ducks in a row there, just in case. All right, so that is it for this video, and thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate it very much, and I will be back tomorrow, hoping to be back with a video solely dedicated to the subject that we were exploring in my last video. So you can look for that, and I will talk to you guys later. You stay safe, stay well, stay blessed, and keep seeking truth. No, really, it's important.